Hello, hello, hello. I'm HoJo.
And I'm Hunnsy.
And welcome to this, the 31st episode of HoJo and Hunnsy's Hard Rock House, the safe space for old gummies just like us, where we're living in a room without any view. We're living free because the rent's never due. The synonyms of all the things that we've said are just the riddles that are built in our heads. Do you have any clue what I'm going on about, Hunnsy?
No. Is it a lyric?
It is a lyric.
Who's that lyric from then?
I'm going to make you guess, but there was a big announcement last week, Hunnsy. So what do you think that lyric could be from?
It's got to be from a Black Sabbath song.
Got it in one. Do you know what song, though?
No. My love of Black Sabbath, this could break the internet. My Black Sabbath love is the Ronnie Dio years.
Ooh.
Don't get me wrong, I am not in any way, shape or form criticising the Ozzy period, but all I'm saying is my favourite Black Sabbath period is the period with Ronnie James Dio.
Why?
It's Ronnie James Dio, isn't it?
What, you just love his singing?
I think he took that band to a place that was far better than where they were with Ozzy, that's all. Oh, controversy. Ooh. Sabbath did some great stuff with Ozzy, right? I'm not denying it, but just not as good as the stuff they did with Ronnie. Yeah, it's Ronnie, isn't it? Who's the better singer, Ozzy or Ronnie?
Ozzy.
Shut up.
Definitely.
Let's move on. I'm not having this now.
Not technically, I'll grant you that. But in terms of his vibe, his emotion, his unique character to his voice, it's Ozzy every time.
Not for me. Should we agree to disagree?
No, let's have a fight.
All right, okay. No, I saw the announcement.
Were you excited by it?
No.
Why is that?
Look, I might be wrong. Shoot me down. I can understand why people are getting all excited and frothing at the gills about the whole thing. But look at the lineup. Mm-hmm. Metallica aren't going to do a Metallica set. Pantera are not going to do a Pantera set. Slayer are not going to do a Slayer set. And all those bands that have been listed, they're going to come on and they're going to do Sabbath songs. And then Ozzy will be wheeled out for 4 songs at the end. And they'll do Paranoid, War Pigs, Iron Man, and something else. And that'll be it. So anybody thinks that they're going to go and see Black Sabbath do an entire gig with Ozzy when Ozzy couldn't do that power trip, he's not up to it. And I'm not criticising him for that. He's old, right? And he's abused himself for many years. It was always going to catch up with him. So I'm not in any way, shape or form criticising Ozzy for not being able to do it. And I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong and he does a full set and he comes back and he looks brilliant and he sounds brilliant, then fine. I will hold my hand up and say, okay, I was wrong. But I think it's going to be more like a tribute show. You know, Metallica will do Symptom of the Universe, Children of the Grave or something, and then Slayer will do something. And then Ozzy will come on for the last 4 songs and that'll be it.
Why is that such a bad thing? Because I was thinking about this. I've got a slightly different take on this.
You're just pissed off that Dawn After Dark weren't invited.
We have been invited. You just don't know it. We're the special guests.
Oh, you're right, okay.
No, I like the concept because you're right. I don't think Ozzy would be able to do a full set. And have you noticed as well, he's doing an Ozzy Osbourne set and a Black Sabbath set. And I'm totally in agreement with you. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to do more than, even with the prevailing wind, an hour at the most, half an hour each set probably.
Yeah.
But that works brilliantly for me. When you go and see bands, don't you just want to have the best possible half hour?
Oh, definitely. Are you going to go then?
I'm going already. I've already been commissioned to review it.
By who?
By my friends in Japan, the Mighty Burn magazine.
Oh, right, okay.
So I'm going to be there. For me, the way they've set it up sounds perfect. I know they haven't announced exactly how it's going to work, but half an hour from Sabbath, Ozzy, brilliant. And then all those other bands coming on and doing 20 minutes of their favourite Sabbath songs. That sounds like a perfect day out to me.
Yeah, I suppose when you put it that way, it does sound all right. Have you got a +1?
Yeah, but you can't have it because you said you didn't want you didn't fancy it. It's already been spoken for if I get a +1.
Oh, right, okay. Who are you taking?
My friend Tony from Dawn After Dark. He's going to be putting me up at his house, which you can't offer.
No, I can't.
You're down the pecking order, I'm afraid.
Right, okay. I'll look forward to the review then.
Well, you'll have to read it in Japanese. No, I'm genuinely excited. And also, you do realise by having coated off this gig, your mate Andy Copping is never going to speak to you again because he's the promoter.
Look,
so you made a mess of this now, haven't you?
No, look.
How much editing would you like me to do of this episode?
I don't know, but I'm slamming it into reverse. I think anybody who loves Sabbath, it's just a chance to see them for the last time, isn't it? If I can blag a ticket, I'll be there.
That's an appalling admission after what you've said about this show.
I know.
To be honest, you're right. Even if it's not going to be the greatest performance of all time, I think there's something very human about everybody turning out for one last show. And do you think it will be one last show? Because you always hear, oh, it's the last this, it's the last that. I mean, Sabbath have done it themselves, haven't they? It's all over and blah, blah, blah. And then they come back again. But I have a sneaking suspicion this might genuinely be the last one.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
Ozzy, God bless him, he's not very well. Everybody knows that's not a secret. Can you imagine what it'll be like to be at Villa Park that day when he comes on stage? Talk about goosebumps. Even if he's not going to be able to perform like he used to, which of course he won't, I still think there's something quite lovely about thinking about all those people in Villa Park in his hometown. Very emotional about seeing him one last time.
Bloody hell. You're getting all emotional today, aren't you?
I think it will be.
The last thing you want is for something awful to happen to him, like he passes away or something, without doing this.
Absolutely. Do you know what it's like, Hunnsy? Because there's a good football ground analogy here. It's almost like a testimonial for your favourite footballer, isn't it? You're not expecting them to come out and perform like they did at the height of their powers. But there is something amazing about a large number of people who all feel passionately about somebody being in a stadium to honour them. I don't know how I'd feel about that if I was paying £150 a ticket or whatever. I don't know what the price is. But exactly. You know what I mean?
You're being all lovely? I don't understand.
Yeah, because I love the Sabs, mate. I do.
Yeah, okay.
But with Ozzy, it's not that I didn't like them with Dear. I thought those albums they did were great. The only thing I would say about them is I used to kind of agree with you. When Heaven and Hell came out, I was 15. And I think that's a very impressionable time, isn't it? So I didn't really know Sabbath's back catalogue. I was too young. I didn't really tune into them until Heaven and Hell. So I wasn't a part of that world when Ozzy was there. And so in the early days, I always thought that those Dio albums were better. But as time has gone on, I've definitely reappraised my opinion. I think the originality of that original Sabbath and Ozzy's energy and the fact that he didn't sound like anyone else. Ronnie's got that classic heavy metal voice. But for me, now it's too perfect. I want a bit more rough in with my vocals, a bit more unique feel.
Okay, so I totally agree with you. Ozzy was very unique. His energy was brilliant. He was a great character. I just think Ronnie joining Sabbath made them sound cleaner, better, more polished, which I guess to your argument is why you, now looking back on it, prefer Ozzy because it was a bit rough around the edges.
It was too polished for me, the Dio era. Yeah, you can listen to those records. There's some great songs on it. Children of the Sea was a great song and Die Young's a great song. It's not that they fell off a cliff and it was awful, but just for me, what made Sabbath is all the rough edges and the unique flavour to it. That's it for me. Now, as a 60-year-old man, I will always think that the Ozzy era is the more defining era. I understand your argument.
Yeah, okay. Well, when is it? It's July, isn't it?
July the 5th.
Wow. I look forward to your review.
Yeah, I'll translate it for you out of the Japanese, don't worry.
Thank you. And maybe I'll see you there.
You'll be barred now.
I know.
He said terrible things about Black Sabbath.
I haven't said terrible things. I'm being a skeptic, which is normally your job. You're normally the skeptic. I'm normally the passionate fan. Everything's positive, right?
To make you feel better, you're going to talk about the record you've been listening to this week.
It's made me feel very happy. I haven't been listening to the total album because the album is not out yet.
How have you got your hands on music that's not been released?
I've got my hands on the music that has been released so far from the record. And it's got me excited about the rest of the album when it does come out. I think it's coming out in March this year.
Okay, so this is kind of a bit of a new take. It's a preview of an album that we don't know whether it's going to be great, but what you've heard you love.
Yes. What I've heard, I am very, very excited about. You'd kind of expect it from this band, but the 3 tracks I've heard are all completely and utterly different, and I love it. Right,
let me ask you a question about this. Do you like this new way that has evolved in the streaming era? Take yourself back to when we were 14, 15.
Yeah.
Queuing outside a record shop to get the new Scorpions album, to get Animal Magnetism or Overkill by Motorhead or whatever it was.
Oh, I used to love that.
The visceral thrill of standing outside a record shop going, yesterday this album wasn't there and today it is and I'm going to hear it. That was really exciting to me.
Oh, I took the morning off school.
You wagged school?
I wagged school.
Everybody did, didn't they, when there was an album coming out? You went, fuck school, I'm going to get this album.
Yeah, I wagged off school when Back in Black came out. God, I was only, how old was I? 11, 12 maybe? I don't know. And I remember wagging school because HMV in my hometown in Sunderland, it was the day it was released. And I went in, literally queued up outside. It was magical. Absolutely magical, just saying, the way that you used to queue for tickets when tickets went on sale. I used to go to Newcastle City Hall and stay out overnight. I was 14 and there'd be a massive queue of people.
You'd take a little tent, wouldn't you? Be on the pavement outside the theatre.
And you became mates with a lot of the people who were in the queue because they were in every queue for every ticket, for every gig. Doesn't matter who it was, and there you were, because you wanted those front row seats. Got to like 7 a.m, someone would bugger off and go to the newsagents and buy 10 Regal king size and a pint of milk, and then come back and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to hold my place in the queue because I've got to go for a piss?
Yeah. And there'd be people walking past at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, coming out from the pub going, what are you lot doing? We're queuing for tickets to see Whitesnake. Really?
Yeah. It was the concept of the album. It was 10 songs. It was 12 songs. I wanted to hear it all as one cohesive whole. And now, the way that it works, I don't know why they do it, but there's obviously algorithms that prove that this is the way to get people excited about new music and all the rest of it, is this drip feeding of songs. I don't particularly like it. I want to hear the complete work. But that's because I'm 60 years old. And name drop here, I was talking with Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull the other day about exactly this. And he was saying, we make albums for no other reason than that's the way we've always done it, really. For lots of people now, the notion of making an album is secondary. Maybe a lot of people in record companies are having an argument that go, an album is a redundant format now. Why aren't you just releasing songs at different points that will hit the summer market? You have a song for the summer, you have a song for when kids go back to school, all that kind of stuff, and just a different way of thinking, and not an album is an important part of an artist's creative environment. I like albums. For me, it devalues it when, like you're saying, you hear 3 songs up front and then you go, fucking hell, I'm going to have to wait another 6 weeks before I can hear the album.
I totally understand that.
So let's talk about the album and talk about the songs. That was just a side swipe at how people process music. And obviously I'm an old fart. I totally get it that there's other ways of processing music.
The album that I haven't been listening to because it's not out yet.
The album we should start this as a regular thing. The album I haven't been listening to. Could go on a while.
It could. It is actually released in 49 days, 13 hours, 34 minutes.
And, there's a countdown somewhere.
And 49 seconds.
Is that on their website?
No, it's on Spotify.
I'm with Amazon Music, so I don't know how Spotify really works.
I haven't seen this before on Spotify, and whether this is just a thing by this band or whether Spotify do it every time when there's an album coming out, I don't know, but it's quite interesting. I've been listening to the first 3 tracks, the new album by The Darkness, which is called Dreams on Toast. Have you heard the whole album?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you fucker.
Yeah, I've heard the whole thing.
All right, because you got an advance copy.
Yeah, well, they don't really do advanced copies, do they, now? They do an advanced digital stream.
Have you listened to it?
Yes, I have.
And what do you think of it?
Yeah. I've only listened to it once. Maybe it's a grower. I wasn't bowled over by what I heard, to be honest with you.
Okay, I've only heard 3 tracks. So the first track I heard was the first one they released, which was called I Hate Myself. It's really fast. I would call it boogie rock and roll. Lots of piano. It's got sax solo in it. It's great. And the video's great as well. I don't know if you've seen the video.
No.
It's a locked off camera of Justin, and he's all done up. I guess it's an observation on the TikTok generation where it's all about looking beautiful and cool. And it's a really great video. I loved that song. I thought it was really interesting. And then I jumped on the other day. I was going, I wonder if that album's out yet. I went, oh, no, it's not out till March. But another 2 tracks have dropped. The first one, which I think is the opening track on the album, called Rock and Roll Party Cowboy, which is bombastically silly, classic Darkness. The lyrics are brilliant. It's all about the excess of being a rock star. And then the lyric, they get Marshall Stacks in there. They get Jack and Cokes in there. They get all that stereotypical heavy metal, hard rock lifestyle in there, which is really good. It's a great riff, by the way. And
that's a very clever way of appealing to Midwest America, isn't it? You're also going, well, I think it's all a bit of a nod and a wink if you're British, but if you're American and you hear Jack Daniels and Coke, rock and roll and cowboy hats, they're going, woo, party!
Exactly. And then the other track I've heard is really interesting. They've released another track called The Longest Kiss, which is kind of ELO meets Jellyfish meets that kind of jazzy thing that Queen did. That sort of almost, let's call it seaside music. Do you know what I mean by seaside music? That sort of waltzy type tempo.
Well, when you say seaside, obviously I think of Seaside Rendezvous by Queen.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. It's not what you'd expect. So the 3 tracks I've heard are all completely different. And that's why I'm quite excited about hearing the rest of the album.
Should I send you my link?
Yeah, would you?
I'll send you the link, and then if I'm not here next week, you'll know that I've been killed by the PR. I'm willing to take the risk, though.
Okay. Did you write a review for it then? Is that why you got sent it?
No, I haven't reviewed it. I might end up reviewing it.
Okay, what they've done on Spotify, the songs that haven't been released on the album are all darkened out a little bit.
Yeah, they're all greyed out so you can see the titles.
Classic darkness. Track 7's called The Battle to Gadgetland, which I'm quite excited about.
Right, okay.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the album. The first 3 tracks, classic rock, language, over-the-top rock and roll party cowboy, bit of boogie woogie and I Hate Myself, which is brilliant, and then a bit of Seaside Rendezvous, Queen meets ELO in The Longest Kiss. It's great. I love it.
I like the concept of the darkness because pricking the ego bubble of overinflated rock stars was always a good idea. The only thing I think about it is, number one, when does it get to the point where it's a bit one-trick pony-ish? And secondly, I think it didn't get better than the first record. I know that's a real cliche about lots of groups, isn't it? But for me, Permission to Land, they didn't better that. There's been some really great songs on every Darkness album, but I wouldn't say every Darkness album is great.
I think they're getting better.
These tracks, from what you heard, are better than Permission to Land.
They're more interesting. Permission to Land was a really good rock record, wasn't it? It's like a hard rock record. They're bringing in more influences on this. You know, I played football with Abaddon from Venom. I've played football with Dan Hawkins on
He's a lovely man, isn't he, Dan Hawkins?
I'm going to see them in March. I'm very excited.
Where are you going to see them?
In Cambridge. I saw the Darkness back in the day. What year was it? Probably 2013. They played in Bath. And we went down to see the man who seems to get mentioned on every podcast, Paul Elliott. He's good friends with the Darkness because Dan Hawkins used to rent his flat in Brighton.
I like that story that he used to rent Gooner's flat. That's a good one.
It is.
But he doesn't rent it anymore, does he?
No, I don't think he does.
No,
we went
in a mansion.
We went down to see them in Bath, and they got Paul Gooner Elliott up on stage to play with them.
Well, you say play.
Yeah, they got him up and they gave him a guitar. I've got footage on my phone, which is so funny. So they got him up and they said, oh, we've got a special guest. I think everybody in the crowd just heard the word Elliot and thought it was Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott, yeah.
But no, this silly bald man gets up. They put a guitar on him and Dan was there putting the guitar on him and he was putting his hand on the fretboard. Right, just play this chord.
That's going to be beyond Paul Elliott.
He was actually plugged in and turned up, right? And
no, it can't have been.
No, he was for about a nanosecond. As soon as he played a chord, which obviously he lost the chord, the sound guy just went, right, I'm just going to turn it.
Yeah, get that fucking off right now.
But yes, I'm going to see the Darkness in March and I'm very excited.
Very good. I've got a story about being on stage miming playing guitar, but I think I'll keep that for next week because we're probably running out of time today. We haven't even talked about what record I've listened to. Remind me of it next week and I'll tell you.
Okay.
It involves me getting the bird flipped at me from very angry Spanish people.
So what have you been listening to?
Well, considering what we talked about at the top of the programme, I've been listening to a Black Sabbath album. Of course I have, in celebration.
We're going to go down the Black Sabbath argument again.
Well, we don't have to have an argument, do we? We can be civil towards each other.
Oh, okay. You've been listening to the Headless Cross, have you?
No, very much not. No, I've got a great story about Headless Cross that will also have to go next week. That's two we've got on the back burner now. So the album I've chosen, to try and avoid what everybody might go for, I've picked an album that a lot of people at the time, because I went back and looked at what people said, really coated off and said it was useless.
Never Say Die?
Yeah, Never Say Die.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Now, I don't know what was in people's cornflakes back in the day, but I am sticking up for Never Say Die. It is not a terrible album. It's a great album. It's got some absolute classics on it. Hard Road.
Yes.
One of the best songs Black Sabbath ever wrote.
Ooh, that's a big statement.
Yeah. Not your gloomy, big gothic chords from Tony. Almost like a glam rock song.
Yeah.
Really sing-along chorus. Big thumping drums. Oh, it's a hard road. You can almost imagine Mud doing it or somebody like that. It's a great track, though.
Yeah.
Never Say Die, the opener.
That is a good song.
Because as Tony said, every time you interview Tony, he always tells you that for him, coming up with riffs is like just getting up in the morning. We've got millions of riffs. Millions. And he's not wrong, because every Sabbath album is just full of great riffs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Johnny Blade, really interesting song. You know, all that weird keyboard stuff. Do you even remember it? I mean, I don't know when you last heard the album.
Oh, God, I haven't listened to Never Say Die for years.
Johnny Blade starts off with these weird, almost psychedelic-y keyboards and little blips, weird noises going. Really interesting.
I really got into Sabbath when Heaven and Hell Mob Rules. So as much as I dabbled in Ozzy Sabbath, because my brother had all the records, I was only young at the time when Never Say Die came out. So I never knew, should we call it a backlash towards that record? It was Ozzy's last record, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think things weren't going well
yeah.
personally between them. I think there was lots of fracturing and this and that.
The only fact that I do know about that record is, you know, the cover.
Yeah, Hypnosis, obviously.
Hypnosis, exactly. Now, the original cover for that album became the cover for Rainbow's Difficult to Cure.
Oh, did it really? That Difficult to Cure, if I remember rightly, is a load of surgeons with scrubs, isn't it, with masks?
Yes.
So that was pitched to Sabbath for Never Say Die, was it?
Yeah, and they rejected it. So Hypnosis basically said to Rainbow, oh, we've got an idea for that.
You've been in that world. You'll know how that works.
Yeah, it's called the recycling bin of ideas. That was rejected. We'll sell it to somebody else.
On Wikipedia, when you pull your cursor over the cover, it's got a description of it, which I think is quite interesting if people don't remember it or don't know it. 2 pilots stand in front of a fighter jet wearing forest green aviation jumpsuits. They each have odd-looking leather helmets, one coloured tomato red, the other mustard yellow. Their faces are completely covered, their eyes by dark goggles, and their noses and mouths with black leather that have tubes attached for a breathing apparatus. It was that weird hypnosis stuff where you couldn't really work out why these images were being used. I still love that cover. I think it's a great cover.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good cover. But then Hypnosis were brilliant. I actually did some work with one of the guys from Hypnosis.
Storm?
No, with Poe.
There were 2 of them, weren't there? Poe and Storm. I worked with Storm, funnily enough.
Did you?
I did. On Halloween's Pink Bubbles Go Ape album.
So he dressed up as a gorilla?
Yeah, I was dressed up as a gorilla for the single sleeve.
Yeah.
That was with Storm, Hypnosis.
They did some classic covers. They were very, very smart.
We'll talk about Hypnosis in detail one day because it's very much part of that rock culture as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We've talked about the fact that Never Say Die is an underrated album. You need to go and listen to it again. But I was just looking at the brilliant comments in the Wikipedia entry, and this is one I really like. They're talking about the fact that they performed Never Say Die on Top of the Pops, which for our single-digit American listeners was the most influential music program on UK television back in the day. And Ozzy talked about this appearance when they performed Never Say Die, and he said he really loved doing it, but it wasn't really for the performance. It was because he got to meet Bob Marley. And there's a quote, and it says, I'm going to do it in Ozzy's voice, I'll always remember the moment he came out of his dressing room. It was next to ours, and you literally couldn't see his head through the cloud of dope smoke. He was smoking the biggest, fattest joints I'd ever seen. And believe me, I'd seen a few. I kept thinking, he's going to have to lip sync. No one can do a live show when they're that high. But no, he did it live, flawlessly. I just love that story.
That is brilliant. I never knew as well, Don Airey is on this record.
Don Airey is on the record, yeah. Don Airey was on all rock records in the 70s. I think all you have to do is scratch away at the surface and you'll find Don Airey there. Did he tell you to fuck off once?
Yeah, he did.
Keep that story for the next episode. We're going to have 3 stories. My getting Flip the Bird in Spain. Your Don Airey telling you to fuck off. And what was the other one? Oh, yeah, Black Sabbath and the Monks.
Yeah, and the dessert. Catering on the video shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that doesn't tempt people to tune in next week, I don't fucking know what will. So the 2 albums that we're recommending this week is 3 Songs for the Darkness, not really an album, never mind, the new Darkness record, and Black Sabbath's Never Say Die. What a curious amalgam of music.
Yeah, very good though. I am going to go back and listen to Never Say Die. If I remember rightly, there's a really good track on there. Is it Shockwave or something?
Shockwave. Yeah, Shockwave.
Yeah, it's a good song.
I'm telling you, it's a great record. Not to be denied. Right, you go away and listen to Black Sabbath. I'll decide whether I'm going to send you the Darkness album. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week, and we'll talk about all things Don Airey, Flipping the Bird.
And Black Sabbath. Nuns. All right, buddy.
Okay, speak to you later.
See you
later. Bye-bye. Bye.